What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's Friday. It's the big thing, and Capes and Cowls, and strangely enough, even though with the SAG strike now happening and the business essentially shutting down, there was a lot of news to talk about because there was casting stuff. We know that Deadpool has a bunch of footage that they showed already, from the classic Wolverine suit to them fighting and all that and more. Right? There's some news from Bob Iger, who is basically saying it's time to cut down some of these budgets. And he also believes that Marvel Studios and Disney Plus TV shows in general have diluted focus and attention, which I do not disagree with him about. One of my favorite stories, there's a potential casting rumor for The Thing, for someone I'm very excited about, for sure. James Gunn responds to the Superman Legacy casting. People were not thrilled about all the different characters that were cast, and he responded to exactly why. This and more. I mean, that's just a little snippet. And, of course, we'll touch on the SAG strike and how that's going to impact stuff, and Comic-Con in general and what that's going to be like. So I hope you are excited to join us today. It's nice to have you. If you haven't already, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are found, make sure you check us out. Go to the website. If you want to support the show, you want to go and you want to see some of the things that we're doing over there, whether it is the Shoes and Beef episode, of course, Capes and Cowls, issue number 1, issue number 2 coming soon. It's on the channel. You can get it if you are a member, or you can get it a la carte. You want to check it out and see what it is. You can get an actual physical copy. You can get a digital copy. Go on over to thekristianharloff.com and get one today. All right, everybody. So let's get into it. It's me, and it's Winston, it's Coy. We're excited. You're excited too, I think. I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm going to guess. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Capes and Cowls. It's myself, Coy Jandro, Winston A. Marshall. The crew is, but what's that say? Oh, I've seen that. That's
I didn't even notice because the jacket. That's immaculate.
I started to put on the Capes and Cowls shirt, and I said, I know what today is. So
I respect it. Yeah.
I saw you gonna starve people out their homes. Nah,
because of the writers. Yeah,
but that quote,
dude.
And then the follow up. Yes, Bob is correct about budgets and whatnot. He is incorrect about people wanting living wages.
Yeah, so I know there's a lot of different things there. So I don't know the extent of everything that he said about that, but I know some people are pushing back on the stuff that he said, plus the fact that I think he makes like $25 million a year.
He just signed himself a new contract to 2026. Like, get out of here, bro.
And that's just that part of the contract. I think he made $71 million in 2019 or something like that. It's like, sure, these people that want livable wages, we should talk about them with my $1 million a day.
But to switch into the comments that were made about the writers, that look, when we talked about the writer's strike, what did I tell you guys? I said they were prepared for this.
Yeah.
They have no. They in no world do they want this to be settled. They're going to let the writers sweat, and then sure as hell. I mean, the writing was on the wall, and it was like sure as hell.
Yeah.
There's reports that pretty much studio execs are saying as much, saying that they got to play hardball. This is the business that we're in. They're going to have to get back to work because they can't afford their rent, and it's evil.
But see, it is
pure evil.
Yeah.
It's villainy.
What a lot of writers have been saying on the picket lines, and they've been saying on Twitter, is like, see, what you don't realize, as much as I love what I do, and I do you know how many tables I had to wait before I got to that point?
Right.
Do you know how many like Uber rides and all that? You don't think that I won't do that because I'm not going to let you just completely exploit me and all that kind of stuff? So like they don't understand that the people are willing to go to the dirt if they want to go to the dirt.
Well, so I agree with you that there's definitely a good amount of people that feel that way. The unfortunate part is that there's also people who, let's say, using your example, they used to wait tables, they did the grind, they did it all, and they were great at it.
Yeah.
But then they got themselves a family.
Yeah.
And
I get
I'm
that.
just saying there's
Yeah.
another side of it, whereas it's like, and then it's like that, now that person, man, woman, whoever it is, can't afford to go do the grind anymore because they need to figure a way.
Totally 100% agree and understand that. I think what's making the big difference here is if they were the lone wolf here by themselves, I think you're right. The fact that SAG is now on strike, the fact that UPS is 2 seconds away from going on strike.
Yeah.
There is one other major company right now that's also their workers have gone on strike. If you continue to see labor as a whole, not just in the movie industry, but labor as a whole go, enough is enough. Like, you need to stop squeezing us for everything. That should be enough to finally make them go, damn, we can't do this anymore. Because it's one or the other, you know what I mean?
I know, but I'm just wondering because like I said, even with I think with SAG they probably because you and I had this conversation at my barbecue. I didn't think they were going to go on strike. The writers I thought would. I thought SAG was going to figure something out because I didn't think that the studios could afford to let the writers go on strike.
Right, because it's immediate.
And the actors, you mean?
Yes, excuse me.
Yeah.
The actors.
Because they were losing $30 million a day with just writers.
Right.
I think they'll be losing upwards of like 80 to 100.
I think they were prepared for the first.
Right.
Because they were also taking cuts. And they were also cutting people out of certain things that they had signed deals to that they would lose. They wouldn't have to do that anymore.
Right.
They didn't want to do that with the actors. So they're going to figure out the actors faster, but it's just a matter of the demands.
I think this is either going to last 10 days or 10 months. I think either it's a quick turnaround because
that's always the answer, though, isn't it?
But in this case, I think there's reasons for both.
Yeah.
Like this case, I think 10 days is going to get rid of the overall deals that like big studios have been like, hey, we'll do an overall deal with you, 7 figures. Now they can negate all those.
Right.
Now they can get some certain like exploitative leverage on certain things, but that all happens quickly. After that, they start to lose money that they won't make back up, and then I think it's going to be like we don't have the authority to shift the things. The streamers aren't making money; the billionaires are making money, and like so, like if you look at Netflix and all these streamers, they don't like have a profit margin like they used to.
Right.
So the things that need to change are so high up. I don't see it changing quickly.
Well, let me ask
so
you,
I think it'll take like 10 months.
I want to ask you a question because the thing, and this will be the question when I make this statement first. I saw we have a new subscriber that came in yesterday. He said, I'm a brand new subscriber. I found this. And he's like, and I'm just curious if you guys, do you ever think about getting like an intern or, someone who could do some of the research on the stuff? And to that person, at first I said, welcome to the channel. There is no research done on this channel. It is pure conversation that we may get it right or may get it wrong. But I thank you for your suggestion. And this is why I ask you this after saying that. I don't want to pretend that I know everything that SAG is asking for, even though I'm part of it. And I don't know everything that they're asking for. What is the main pushback from the studio of what they want? Do you know?
There's a few things. So one, both WJ and SAG have been asking because of
Streaming
the residuals, stuff,
Yeah.
because of the residuals that don't make sense. So like
Sure.
there was a famous, there's an actress on the show P-Valley. Sorry, I've got a bad headache today. There's an actress on the show P-Valley. She put a TikTok out that went viral where she was like, hey y'all, it's my birthday. And for my birthday, I got these SAG residual checks, baby. I'm so excited. Let's open them up. $3.50,
Right.
$1.49, 10 cents. Y'all, we going on strike.
Right.
Like it's this idea of you could be the complete face of a show. And I think the article that did it for me, it was either The Wrap or The Atlantic did a piece about Orange is the New Black. And apparently most of those actors were getting paid peanuts, if not any. Like one actress that played, I think she played Fig, which was the warden that came in, the corporate warden that came in.
Okay.
She was coming in at a loss because it was an LA local hire. She had to fly herself in order to play the role, even though it would become a reoccurring guest star or series regular. So that's the whole thing. She took that risk because this would be the thing that would put her career to the next spot. But you shouldn't have to necessarily do that for something that big. If you're doing like a day player thing, that makes sense. But if you're like a staple on the show at that point, you should be getting compensated properly.
I remember when Scarlett Johansson, like the article came out that she made $4,200 a week on Wes Anderson's most recent Asteroid City, and everybody was like, "Oh, I wish I made $4,200 a week." I don't know if people understand the economics of this town because $4,200 a week is you get taxed on that number first. So say they get taxed. Say it's a 30% tax on $4,200. That's already what a third of $4,200 is.
1,800.
It's 1,800. So we'll take 1,800 off the 4,200. So that is going to be 2,600. So $2,600 is what she has left. But she has to pay 10% to her manager and 10% to her agent of that first 4,200. So that's 420 and 420. So that's another 840. So 840 plus 1,600 is 2,400. So now she's gone from
including the taxes, are you?
No, I just did. That's
yeah,
30%. So 16 is the taxes.
Okay.
And then we're doing
Got it.
420 and 420 for a team. So now we're at $2,400.
5% for a lawyer.
Exactly. So now we're at $2,400 and then 5% for lawyers,
And
another
don't
$200.
forget about international and stuff too. There's also
There's all that
international-
chaos.
because Bryce Dallas Howard and Katie actually talked about this. The amount of money that you think that even like a Bryce Dallas Howard would make, and is significantly lower from because of all the stuff that you'd have to what you just mentioned, stuff you have to pay out. So yeah, it's like it's not.
So if you strike
People don't
2,600
understand.
from that 4,200,
Yeah.
you're at $1,600 for a week. $1,600 a week might be a livable wage in many
It's about
places.
13, 14 hours a day.
Exactly. I was going to say, then you're also looking at what it costs to live here, and you're looking at the hours you're actually putting
Yeah,
in.
she
And
didn't do that one for the money.
no, but that's what I
Right.
mean is like some people have to do it for the money. Though.
Right.
That's
Right.
the SAG minimum she worked for. Some people have fought their entire lives to get to that point.
Right. Streaming needs to be figured out. The everything that I think that both strikes are warranted. I think it's almost criminal in what they're doing to the writers. But the thing is that it's like this kind of cutthroat business mentality of what they're doing, and they're not seeing. I'll never forget. I was working at The Bachelor, and this is very similar to this whole thing. And I said one of the main reasons that I couldn't work there, they wanted to promote me like 8 to 10 different times. They wanted me because I had worked at Bachelor Pad as a producer. I actually met my buddy Graham through there, my buddy William through there. But I liked talking to the people and really like kind of getting real moments out of them. But there's a lot of manipulation going on on producers and stuff. That's part of the job. And so there was a guy that was working there. He was like one of the head guys at the time. And he called me into his office and we were talking. He's like, look, you're going to be really good at this. We want you to do this. And I never said yes to it, by the way. But they wanted me to do it. And he said, but when you go in there, remember, you can't look at these people as people. They're not people. They're characters on a show. Don't worry about the emotions of it. Don't worry about this. They're people, and you got to look at them as fictional characters. I understand the mindset. I just didn't feel good about that, and I couldn't do that, right? So, like, that, and the reason I bring that up is it's very similar to this mentality. Look, these are the people who help with the shows. There's a million different writers coming in every single day. Once this thing is over, we'll find more. So it doesn't matter if some guy is we're gonna starve him out because that person will down the line they'll find something else. They don't think about the human side of it.
Right.
It's the greed. It's all this other stuff that kind of.
And if it wasn't profitable consistently, that's different. Like if you're making an indie film, yeah, maybe you got to work for like $10 a day, or you know what I mean. Like if that's different. But if we see at the end of the year these studios making their billions, even with the struggle, there's still profit at places. That's the issue. Is when someone's making a lot of money and someone's making a little. That are the disparities. The thing that has to shift.
Right.
I don't believe that
Right.
someone doesn't deserve to make X dollars, but I do believe that someone doesn't deserve to make $0.
Yes.
It's also from the standpoint of I think what they're forgetting. I understand that the studio heads are making the decisions of what's getting made and what's not getting made, and I also understand they're the ones bringing the money to the table. But you also have to remember you don't have The Bear, Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad without the writers,
100%.
without the
Right.
actors. You have nothing.
Right.
So
and then that's why. So I think one of the arguments for what they're saying is sure if you said that to some of these studio peeps, right? You're right, but why do we need 8 to 15 writers? We only need the writer and the creator of the show, and then he brings in 2 people. Why do we need all these other things? They don't understand the creative, the process. It's the difference between like the suits and the creative, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And where it's the creative, and the ironic is the fact that the creative is the reason that the suits have what
can't
they
have
have.
the suits.
Exactly.
Right.
The pushback that I would immediately say when they say stuff like that is because what they're trying to do is then icing out the next generation.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
And in doing
Yeah.
so, like I think about how Shonda had a whole night of television. She had all of Thursday night. She had Grey's Anatomy, Station 19, How to Get Away with Murder, like just all of that. For example, How to Get Away with Murder, one of her proteges was working with her. She had Scandal as well. Was working with her on Scandal, and then because they knew who that writer was, because Shonda brought them in, they then made a whole new extra show that won Emmys and everything else. Like
Right.
the idea of not prepping for the future and the actual future of bringing in the next level of creatives to continue this train rolling is the stupidest thing I've ever
I
heard in
agree.
my entire life.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. It's always a matter of greed and a matter of money. And
I
I'll tell
think
you,
that's the main kickback of billionaires. You mentioned the absolute like all billionaires are evil. I think the main problem to get to a B billion is that's a million. Like people that
1,000 million.
Thank you for correcting my math. But it's so much money where it's like you could never spend that much in a lifetime, and you could never like.
it's excessive.
Yeah, it's beyond. So the moral quandary of the world being in the place of disparity it is. My only kickback against billionaires is the idea that you have money that you physically can't spend all of that could go towards
I agree with
helping.
every bit of that, and I just like I said.
But again, I don't deal in absolutes.
and I also don't speak to these people, so it's hard because I see them on television or on social media or all these things. I don't want to have an idea in my head of like, well, this is what I think, because I agree with that, everything you said there. But I haven't had a conversation with these people.
Right.
I don't know who they are in their essence.
And
So
like Mark Cuban is a billionaire, I think, right?
but I
And he
can't-
does the prescription
There
thing,
are
which is
tons,
amazing.
There's tons of billionaires who also do good things
Right.
that we don't know and maybe aren't in the public eye, and there are tons of them
Yeah.
that are putting money out there, that are doing things, and I have never had a conversation with them, so I don't know if they're good or bad. And I'm not saying that 90% of them are complete evil scumbags. They very well might be, but how do I know that? I don't talk to them. I see them on Twitter. I see them on TV. It's just an idea that you have, and I don't think that's right to say that about someone who has $6 in their account. Well, that person, they're struggling and they made their own route and
that drives me insane.
It's like, no, you
And
don't know
and the
why
people
the
don't realize
person's
that
there.
they're saying the same shit. That's what I really struggle with.
Right.
The people that judge people for judging people that are
Right.
unhoused
But
or on the
it's okay
street.
to judge them because they're rich.
Exactly.
It's
It's
you
the
can't do
same
that.
judgment, and that's what scares me.
I think the ultimate thing is the same thing that's always been said. It's if a billionaire is going to come out and start shitting on people, then by all means, you are a bad person and I don't like you.
You put your hands
Yeah.
up. You put your hands up, and it's like, okay, you're asking for it. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just, again, absolutes.
Sure.
It's like,
yeah.
So if someone's out there going, well, there's enough evidence here that this person might not be good.
That's a person, not people.
That's a person.
Yeah. Right.
That is not a group.
I
of
even
people.
like some Yankees
Right.
fans.
This is well, you're a nicer person than I
Exceptions
was.
to rules.
Because I won't say the same thing about.
It's
I
fine.
actually have a lot of friends who are
It's the
Red
same
Sox.
thing. I talk to Mark Ellis. I have no business doing
Right,
that as a
right.
Commanders fan.
Exactly.
Kiss my
But
ass.
We don't deal in
I'll tell
absolutes.
you that I'll give you one absolute. Have you guys heard of Rocket Money?
I have.
Dude, Rocket Money is the best. I've been talking about it this week. So, do you know Rocket Money?
I know of it. I don't know what their deal is.
So they were True Bill, is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I had heard about True Bill for a long time ago, and then they just changed their name and everything to Rocket Money. Essentially, what it is, it's like, how many times have you run into the fact where you're like, oh, this is a cool app that I want to try? It's like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's 30 days free,
Yeah.
and then it's $7,000 after month one, and you forget.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why do I have this bill?
Yeah.
And you completely forget about it. So what they do is you put in, it tells you all the subscriptions that you have, and then you go. Then it's like a little thing that says, do you want us to cancel these? Yes, please. And they
Nice.
cancel, and it saves you a ton of cash. But then it also will tell you with like your banks, like you spent X amount of money per month. You did this per month. This payment came in. You paid so-and-so this. Is that authorized?
Yeah.
And you're like, it's a great way to
So I'm taking a wild stab in the dark here that this is one of our new sponsors.
It is.
Because I have been a true Bill, genuinely, because I had no idea Kristian was doing this. I have been a true Bill
It's
user.
Rocket Money now, yeah.
No, I know
Oh,
that.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah,
since
okay.
its inception and have continued with Rocket Money, and it has been one of the things that has been absolutely just like paramount to like me getting my stuff
Yeah,
together.
it would help you tremendously
I
because you're
love
like
numbers.
me. Well, because you're also like me, where sometimes it's like you're it's so erratic, you're unorganized. It's like I don't know what to do. Dude, it's just it's everything. Like one thing it tells you
That's dope,
everything.
man.
I love. I've had it forever. So they were like, do you want them as a sponsor?
Oh.
I didn't even have to write any. I just yes, that's it. I use them all the time. So anyway, for people who out there, I've been telling you, and not only will you help yourself out tremendously, for people who ask all the time, you're gonna help the show out. RocketMoney.com/thing. Sign up today. I'm
I'll check it out.
challenging you for next show
Got
to be
you.
signed up. You're gonna
You should do
love
it,
it.
dude. That's great.
You're gonna love it. RocketMoney.com/thing.
After this morning's news, I need to allocate my
yeah,
money.
for real. I want them back. So I want them back as a sponsor. I want them to keep coming back, but I want to give it to you guys so you guys know, and to spread the word of Coy to other people too. But if you want to help the show up, I got someone recently saying, you guys should be the #1 movie show in this space. I was
Correct.
like, well, do this. Do stuff like this. It will help. How does that help? Because the more sponsors come back, the more we're able to put stuff into promotion, the more we're able to get the word out there. So rocketmoney.com/thing. All right, let's. I will tell you guys one quick story. You'll get.
Is it the tree?
Is it the tree
No, I
back?
didn't go back to the tree.
One day he's gonna say yes.
My arm hasn't
One day
healed.
he'll say
My
yes.
arm hasn't healed yet.
I didn't realize you hurt your arm doing
Badly.
this.
Dude, I was out there for an hour and 20 minutes throwing like this. I'm not Tom Brady. But I will take you guys with me next time.
Yes,
Let's do it.
All right.
field trip.
Yeah, maybe when you
YouTube
heal up, we'll
shorts.
see if it's there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great way to honor the leg.
Yeah, to see if it's actually still there, like months later. No, this is a quick one too. So I was telling my little one, she's almost 6, right? So I was telling a story, and she's like, "Tell me," she likes me to tell movie stories of the things. And last night I was just tired, so I was like, "Yeah, there was this little kid and did this." And I started off with some BS story, and I go, "Yeah, there's a dinosaur named Tim," and she's like, "No, I don't have a dinosaur named Tim." I'm like, "All right, fine." So I started telling this other story, and I was like, "There's a lady who was in a sandwich shop, and she made a right-hand turn, and she ran into a dinosaur named Tim." Right, and she starts laughing, right? And then I was like, "Oh," she's like, "Yeah, tell another one." I was like, there was these people that were swimming in the ocean. There was a little girl, a little boy, and a little boy, and then a dinosaur named Tim. And I kept doing it. She's cracking up about the dinosaur named Tim, right? Then I do it to my oldest. My wife looks at me like, "You're really going deep into these dad jokes, huh?" And I'm like, yeah. So then I told my oldest, loved it the same way. So this morning, my youngest is drawing Disney pictures that would when we went, and she's like, it's adorable, like wrote this little book, and I go, look at this. I go, you know what should be there? A dinosaur named Tim. She goes, you're playing it out now, Dad.
Bro,
it's getting old. No, she goes, it's getting old now, Dad.
Bro,
she goes, it's getting old now.
She is so smart. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
She goes, it's getting old now. That's what she said. Anyway,
You served your time. You had to run.
Yeah.
What's wild is your youngest is a 5/6-year-old, and then all of a sudden she says something like she's 26.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see,
yeah,
but the thing is
right.
that you've got an experience. You've experienced.
Yeah.
It. It's like she is. She's something else. All right, let's get to some of these stories. All right, we should start with this. Now, I've covered it on the channel. Obviously, I talked about it on Monday, but I haven't talked to the guys about it. And so there's a lot going on here with these images, right? You get the first image of Wolverine in the old school suit, but then there was like footage. Did you watch the footage?
I've seen a little bit of it, and then I was like, ooh, I think I guessed what it is
Yeah.
because I watched a little.
So there's like a fight between Deadpool and Wolverine, which we knew was going to happen.
And I think
anyway.
between someone else too.
Okay, so that I didn't see, but I saw.
intentionally stayed away from
yeah, but I saw that. I saw the fight itself, and the question I have is, do you remember this? You remember Machinima, right?
Yeah.
Machinima did this, and again, I've talked about it on the air, and I could have since looked it up, and I have not. Going back to that whole comment that the guy wrote before. There was a Deadpool thing way before Deadpool was even a movie, and I think he was fighting Wolverine.
I think they did
Or is
one
it-
with them. They did a lot of versus
I know that
battles.
he fought. I think he fought Vader at one point, but I think
And I think Wolverine fought Predator at one point.
but I can't. But Deadpool fought somebody, and it was just like this crazy scene. I thought it was against Wolverine, but either way, you knew they were going to fight, and you knew because they both can heal.
Yeah.
They both don't like each other at first, and they probably beat the piss out of each other in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like the suit. What are you thinking of the suit so far?
I mean, I think it looks incredible. It's what I've wanted out of Wolverine this entire time, and I understand why they went a different direction. If I'm not mistaken, the ones that they went with in 2000 are reminiscent of the Ultimate X-Men, right? That Ultimate Universe.
And the new X-Men run from Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely as well.
Yeah, so I get it, and the black leather and all that that's cool, but like there is something very specific that burns in my brain about old school X-Men, old school 90s animated series, like trying to see Wolverine in this blue and yellow. If there's a Cyclops, I'm trying to see him in his blues with like the little strap, like Storm in her full white, like you know what I'm saying?
90s Jim Lee X-Men, man.
That's what I'm trying to see. And so to finally see that, even if it is going, which you hit the nail on the head, everything that I've seen at this point, especially the announcement of Elektra, because that happened right after we finished taping.
Yeah.
I called it back at Collider.
This is 1,000% Deadpool kills the Fox universe because this is all that. This is all
Well,
of
do you
that.
think that he necessarily kills them, or like,
So
because
what I think it is-
why would he kill Wolverine? Why would
I
he kill his
think
buddy?
it's an incursion event. I think that Deadpool accidentally ends entire universes and he's trying to stop it. I think Deadpool messes up and they're culling the timelines like in Loki. So I think Deadpool at the end of Deadpool 2 when he takes the time turner and he steals Cable's thing,
yeah.
I think the reason TVA is chasing him is he's accidentally destroying entire universes and they're having to clip them because he's causing so much problem. So I think he's killing them in the way that he's like accidentally destroying entire universes. And that'll lean it out. I think it's going to clean up a lot of continuity. I think it's going to make it a lot more linear, more like what they just did with Flash.
Yeah.
I also think that, and to slightly correct you just sort of timeline-wise, the new X-Men from Grant Morrison and Quitely that I mentioned, and also X-Men, Ultimate X-Men came out in 2000. So they would have been filming this in 98, 99 because it came out in 2001. So I
if
think
I'm
it was
not
more
mistaken-
based off of Blade.
Off of Blade.
Because Blade went black leather. I
Sure.
think the X-Men were like, oh, that did well. Do you know what I mean?
That would make sense.
Because I think the comics actually copied the movie.
because and that would make sense, and I think a lot of that, like they were maybe just trying to streamlining it and figuring out how they wanted
How to
do
be marketable.
it. And that also in the sense that like Nick Fury, for example, had always been like an older grizzled white dude.
Right.
And when they decided to cast Sam Jackson, then he became the ultimate Nick Fury.
Yeah.
And then kind of became the staple going forward.
Yeah, it's funny how the comics actually started reflecting the movies because Marvel was so on uneven ground.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is interesting about this movie in particular is you're cleaning up not just a movie or two. The Fox universe was ample. Like there was 10 of those movies. They had their own continuity. They were all tied in together. So I think it's going to be really fun since we know Elektra's in it, since we assume Daredevil's going to be in it. You can give...
You think Affleck will sign up?
I do. I think
hope
he's
so.
I think he's in play mode because of
I
Flash.
hope so.
I think it also depends on. I think he's got a pretty good relationship with Garner still.
Yeah, I think
they
that
have
would
a
be.
good relationship.
They raise their kids together.
Yeah,
They co-parent.
I just don't. I mean, there was reports at one point that they were like, I think he said something on Stern that the. I don't remember. I don't get into the personal stuff, but I'm sure that they've since worked it out. I hope.
What I love is that everybody's talking about the comedy. Everybody's talking about how fun it'll be. Everybody's talking about cameos. What I think is interesting is the first Deadpool is one of the most heartfelt superhero movies. It's got one of the best love stories. People forget that Deadpool, especially with Ryan Reynolds, is so heartfelt.
Right.
This kind of gives us an ending to Fox. And that feels like, to me in my head, I'm like, man, I loved these characters. I'm really excited to say bye, not with New Mutants.
You know what I really want? I want them to revive, because I know he technically was in Days of Future Past at the end there, but I want them to revive James Marsden just to re-kill him.
Oh, I'd
How
love
funny
that.
would that be where it's like he shows up right when Cyclops dies
If
just to re-murder him?
Dude, I would love
Anybody
him
would
get a
do
full...
it.
Oh,
Marsden would do it.
because he legitimately loves Cyclops. I want to see him in a full comic accurate outfit.
Yeah.
Is the dream.
He comes back to life just long enough, like, and spoilers for Deadpool 2, but it's been years. So, because I know people got, and understandably so, got mad at me about the Indiana Jones
I was able
thing.
to cut it.
I saw that.
Finally.
But a couple, but a couple people in the
Oh,
comments are like, really, Winston? I'm like, my bad. I got a little too ahead of myself. But in Deadpool 2, when he gets that whole team, X-Force team together and they all die at the start of the mission, I would love for Marston to have that moment.
Well, I think that with the other who was the other, Evan Peters will probably show up. Right?
Yeah.
Evan Peters. I
which
hope
is
Kelsey
fun.
Grammer shows up as Beast. I feel like that would be fun
That'd
too.
be interesting.
I just
So-
want to hear both Wolverine and Scott yelling "Gene" like in the animated series. I want lots of Genes.
Either way, we're gonna see it. It's
Can't wait.
The images are up now. You can check it out. There's other things that are going to continue to come out about this movie. It's becoming more and more highly anticipated. The question again for every one of these projects we keep talking about is how much the SAG strike now is going to. We knew that the writer's strike was pushing things back. How much is the SAG strike going to hurt? All right, next one. All right, we're talking about Bob Iger. And so the big news here is Disney. This is from Comic Book Movie. Disney CEO Bob Iger believes Marvel Studios' Disney Plus TV shows have diluted focus and attention. It's a good thing to say while you still have Secret Invasion on the air. Disney CEO Bob Iger has addressed the missteps made by Marvel Studios under Bob Chapek's watch, suggesting an increase in streaming content may have diluted the excitement for the MCU titles among fans. Now, this is from Josh Wilding, since the Infinity Saga ended, there's been an understandable decline in the quality of Marvel Studios' output. While the MCU remains a long way of the dire straits the DCEU has found itself in, the franchise is no longer critic-proof and has even delivered some commercial disappointments. Many fans have blamed a sudden increase in releases, with a seemingly endless stream of Disney Plus TV shows creating a quantity over quality approach by storytelling. Yesterday evening, the news broke that Disney CEO Bob Iger has extended his contract and will remain until 2026. Kathleen Kennedy is going to be there until 2035. I'm just kidding. it's news which has been welcomed by Wall Street at a time the company is facing declining theme park attendance and some newsworthy box office flops. Despite being billed as a vital chapter in the multiverse saga, Ant-Man and the Wasp, for example, Quantumania, failed to even reach 500 million worldwide and found itself skewered by critics. Iger has chimed in and believes where Marvel Studios has gone wrong. Iger says, there's been some disappointments. We would have liked some of our more recent releases to perform better. It's reflective not as a problem for a personal perspective, but I think in our zeal to basically grow our content significantly to serve mostly our streaming offerings, we ended up taking our people way beyond in terms of their time and their focus, way beyond where they had been. Marvel is a great example of that. They had not been in the TV business at any significant level. Not only did they increase their movie output, but they ended up making a number of TV series, and frankly, it diluted focus and attention. That is, I think, more of the case than anything. Let's stick to these comments, and not the other stuff that we were talking about. He's right. He's 100% right. I think that when it comes to this, we've said as much, right? There's way too much that they put out. Too many. The movies themselves went because someone said I was having this conversation with a friend of mine. We were talking about Star Wars, and what my friend had said was, he's like, well, the problem is that Star Wars isn't that special anymore, and they're putting out too much, and the movies, and I go, they haven't been a movie on since 2019, and when they were putting out a movie every year, nobody would have said anything if the movies would have been great,
right?
Because Marvel was putting out great stuff, and a lot of great stuff, maybe some stuff that not everybody thought was great, but a lot of stuff that was making money, people that really enjoyed from like 2008 to like 2019. So when they were putting 2 movies out a year. But at one point, nobody was saying anything,
right?
Because they were delivering.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. My only retort is that quality and quantity, when possible, doesn't have that problem. I think it's a quality issue, and I think that what he's saying about taxing people by overworking them and all that is the problem. Like if you look at the CGI
that adds
issues,
into the bad quality,
right?
Sure.
So like if you look at like the was it Black Panther the third act where they had to go work on the next thing when that's why the CGI wasn't finished, and like there's certain movies where it's like, well, they left that day, and that is because they had the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and then one of them was they had to go work on Wakanda Forever. And it was kind of the reverse problem where Wakanda Forever was taking the big brunt of the jobs. So you just can't allow the double stacking like that. And if you've got TV shows that deserve a certain amount of quality and they're not getting them, or if you have people not watching the shows to make a sequel movie, then you clearly are going to have a net negative impact on the overall thing. And Marvel isn't like other movies. It is one serialized thing. So if half your episodes aren't working anymore, it's going to make the whole thing feel less good and less like an epic event. I think it's an issue.
I'm split. I think that there is a lot of truth in the statement, but I think there's 2 things that have happened that I think really have something to do with it. I think one of the major ones, I understand the pandemic happened. You have trained audiences to not go to the movies. You have honestly
that's the business in general, right?
So to try and say that the shows are directly causing the downfall of the movies is incorrect. You made the decision that I was going to put this out on our streaming platform in 90 days. And so because of that, why would I go to the box office with my kid? You can say this better than I would.
Sure.
A family of 4, isn't it roughly, if you took the whole family, the kid and caboodle, at least $100 to
close to it. But the only thing is, I think he's less saying about that it's hurting the movies as much as he's saying it's hurting the brand. Because that's where I stand into it, because I do think that if there's so many of these different things that, or maybe it's like, and the other thing we've talked about many times, when Feige says, you don't need to see WandaVision, and clearly you should watch WandaVision, and it's like, but that's what Iger's also saying. You're asking these people to do all this stuff. There's so much of it. It's
so you don't have to do as much, but I think that's part of the problem is, why is WandaVision better than Thor, than Doctor Strange?
Right.
And those are supposed to be connected. Why is Loki better than Thor: Love and Thunder? And I know Loki didn't show up in Love and Thunder, but we associate Loki with Thor. You know what I'm saying? Like, not all the shows have been hits, and I get that, but why is it then, if that's what the problem is, that you're getting better out of some of these TV show properties?
I think Secret Invasion is better than a lot of Marvel movies.
You know what I'm saying? So I agree that there is too much. We have all come to that same consensus that I think we got very excited about the idea of like being able to have the entirety of the buffet, and now that we have the buffet on our plate, I'm like, I'm not going to finish half of this.
That's the thing, is it's just an abundance.
Well,
and that's why I agree with the quote, but I think people aren't taking into account the streaming problem. I think streaming killed movie theaters. It's not dead yet, but it's got a death rattle in its voice, and that worries me, because I do think that 45-day window was abuse to cinema, and when it was day and date, like that's why Nolan left WB.
Yeah, and I loved every second of it, but I understand why it was
exactly. We were on the way here. We literally on the way here were like, this is a tricky conversation with Kristian, because I know where you're coming from.
There's in no world do I think it was good business. I
Right.
think it was terrible business, but I loved every second.
As a parent and as a dude that's like, I'm done going outside. Like, I get it.
I'm gonna stick around with my wife, and when she wants to watch the new release, we watch it at home.
And that's what I understand how people love it, but I do think it is an unsolvable. The genie's out of the bottle.
100%.
So it's bigger than just the shows.
Yeah, I don't think he's just saying. I don't take that read that he's.
I don't
just
think he's
saying
saying it's the whole
shows.
problem.
I think that, but what I said, that using your analogy of like the buffet, right? It's like when they started the buffet, it was like one of the, like, you ever go to the Vegas casino buffet? They're delicious, like, and because they're putting all their effort into it. If you start franchising it and putting it all over the place, you're not going to have the same chefs doing it all the time. It's going to be diluted, and it's going to be a franchise thing.
I think what they honestly should have done, they were doing what, 3 movies a year. They should really just cut it down. 3 movies, 3 shows. Call it, like, because the problem.
3 movies. That's a lot, dude. 3 movies, 3 shows a year.
Yeah, the problem was, if I remember correctly, when we really started to hit into issues, we had WandaVision, Loki, Captain America: Civil War, or Captain America and the Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, What If. That was 5 TV shows on top of.
Yeah, they did pull that back immediately.
On
Yeah.
top of Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, like Thor: Love and you know what
I
I'm
think
saying?
2 and 2. I think 2 and 2. I think
summer or winter.
because the problem is that the 2 and 2 right now, the movies just aren't at the quality to deserve 3.
And if you want to do that, I would be fine with that too. But I also think that then what needs to happen, that TV show needs to be directly related to that.
100%.
You cannot
Absolutely.
you cannot say this show
Yeah.
has nothing to do with this.
That was the whole point of that we thought it was like these connected things. It's like, hey, the writers, you guys watch for Doctor Strange. You guys watched that show, right? We just did, right?
Nah.
It literally cool. WandaVision is running from February until like end of April or beginning of
let's
April.
connect it.
And then as soon
2
as
and
that's
2.
done, in May,
Yeah.
Doctor Strange drops.
Well, but he also said, I mean, he used Marvel as the example, but I think he means all these things too. So he's, obviously the stuff like, because Star Wars, they had a bunch of stuff that they were doing today. I think Star Wars TV had two a year. It's good for Star Wars. You put one in the. I mean, there's 3 this year, right? It was Mando, Skeleton Crews. If they're still coming out at the end of the year, maybe it won't. But and then Ahsoka. So there's 3.
I don't know without being able to do press on it if it should. Because I think Skeleton Crew needs awareness.
Well, it absolutely
So you know
does,
what I mean?
but
Like-
it's supposed to come out at the end of the year though. So maybe it's still
But
shot.
you wanted a 2-month press.
But
run.
Ahsoka, they put that trailer out in the right amount of time.
Yeah, they did. So you could do press on it.
Can you do press on it?
No. So they did.
So they did.
Yeah,
they
but
got
now
the
they
press
can't.
on it. That's it. So and that's they're still going to be in SAG strikes. So that's an interesting
Captain
thing.
Marvel might be too. Or the
oh
Marvel,
my
sorry.
God,
The Marvel.
Oh no, that's the last thing the Marvels need.
Yeah,
If
the
you're already
cast
trying-
directed, female led.
and you're also trying to get some of the clout because people are still kind of like shitting on Captain
Yeah,
Marvel.
and
so
it
like
might not
you
have press
need to
tour,
do
dude.
you need to do like
They would have to.
I'm
They
starting to
would.
think that movie's going to start to find itself in some big trouble.
I think they needed to start that press tour in September. I don't think this is over in September. That was the first thing I thought
Yeah.
this morning was
I
the
think that
Marvel's
mo-
not going to press.
I think that movie's going to be in big trouble.
I love the team.
That-
I'm really worried.
Yeah.
that
Because
makes
I
me
think
nervous.
I also think it's going to be a sequel, so to speak, of Secret Invasion. And now,
It's gonna be interesting, but all right, let's go on over to the next one. All right, this is when we talked about with Mike with his attitude. The only time he actually looked like he was cheery was when he brought up this news. This is Superman Legacy cast 3 heroes, and this is from Garth Franklin over at Dark Horizons again. He hasn't cast Lex Luthor, he hasn't cast Jimmy Olsen, but DC Studios co-chief James Gunn is already filling out minor roles in the upcoming Superman Legacy at DC Studios. 3 names have been added to the cast, each playing a version of a DC hero. First up, Castle and the rookie alum Nathan Fillion has been cast as Guy Gardner, one of the human incarnations of the Green Lantern. Fillion and Gunn are old friends who've worked together on projects like Slither and the Suicide Squad. Next up, Dora and the Lost City of Gold and Rosaline actress Isabella Merced has scored the role of Hawkgirl. Finally, Edie Gathegi from The Blacklist, Twilight, and X-Men First Class, come on, man, has been cast as Michael Holt / Mr. Terrific. The trio joins
Justice for Darwin.
That's
David
right.
Corenswet alongside Rachel Brosnahan, and then the focus of the film will be Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with the human upbringing. The character is the embodiment of truth, justice, and yada, 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 yada. There's follow-ups to these stories, too, but we'll stick with this. The cast... Interesting cast to me. This is what I said because I saw people kind of losing their minds, going, "How can?" And again, we'll follow up with the story of people going, "How?" I thought this was supposed to be a Superman standalone. What's with all these different characters? What's with all these different things? And I'm not going to lie, I felt that when I first saw it. I'm like, why are we putting Green Lantern in this? Why are we putting this? And who the hell is this guy? I never heard of this guy. Guy Fieri. What's the guy's name? What's
Guy Gardner.
Guy Gardner. And so like Guy Gardner shows up, and I'm like, oh, it's filling in their buddies. So he's putting his buddy in another movie. And then I'm looking at these the other cast. I'm like, this is great, but like, what are we focusing on here? But then he responded. But I wanted to get you why the choice to put Guy Fieri in this movie?
So here's my only beef with this casting. I don't know if I agree with Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner is a douche. Nathan Fillion
can play super douche.
But he really comes more off as like a good guy. He can. I agree with you, but not the way Guy Gardner is like. You walk it in. I'll put you in jail. I'll bust your face. Yeah. Like I don't read that off of Fillion really in that regard. I think he could have been a great Hal Jordan or a Kyle Rayner. Not Kyle Rayner. Yeah, Kyle Rayner.
Jordan, Kyle Rayner.
I could see Kyle Rayner. I can't see him as Guy. And so again, James Gunn knows his buddy.
Cast, right.
He knows how to cast, so I will shut up until I actually see it. I've learned that lesson. You taught me that with Robert Pattinson, so I'll be quiet. But from what I've heard, essentially where this idea is going, and I don't necessarily hate this, it sounds like we're not necessarily getting a Superman origin. We're getting a young Superman. This sounds like it might be a Justice Society situation, and that Superman doesn't agree with how things are kind of going with the team. So in the way you would look at like Civil War, yes, Civil War felt like Avengers 2.5, but if you strip a lot of that away, it really is Captain America chasing after Bucky to protect his friend, and you just happen to see the other Avengers come in there at some point.
But Coy, what do you think with this? Because don't you, if that's the case, right? If the let's say Winston just said there, you're establishing a new Superman here and a new Lois, and then you're kind of throwing this kind of intergalactic thing to the side. Isn't that a little too much?
So what I thought immediately was people aren't discussing the specificity of which characters we just heard are in this. People are saying, oh my God, it's not just Superman. To me, this is the DCU is already going to be established. Superman is going to be in this DC universe, not as an origin, but he's going to be in a world that's already got heroes. The way I see this as Mr. Terrific is an incredible character that is hyper intelligent, the first to third smartest man in the DC universe, depending on who you ask. But he's got this brusqueness about him because he's so smart, and he's like he can outsmart Batman. That's a very key note. Guy Gardner, bit of a dick, so he's a guy that's not very pleasant to be around. He's got some warmth in him deep down, but he's overall like a Stifler type. He's off-putting.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. He's just a douche.
Yeah.
And then the third one, Hawk Girl, is basically like a vigilante. She's violent. She's aggressive. If you think about those three characters, those aren't people you'd want representing heroes. Yeah. So you show the dichotomy between Superman, who's aspirational. What if the heroes of the DC universe are a little off-putting? Yeah. So the legacy of Superman is that he brings light to the universe. And then he's also said that Lois and Clark is one side of him. Superman in the Justice League is another side of him. You need that to be established in order to show that duality. So I personally think the people aren't talking about which ones he's casting.
Right.
Also, justice for Arvin.
Well, here's.
And I heard Metamorpho. I heard
that's our next
we're
story.
gonna get into that in a second too. Okay. But so and that's the thing with Gunn right now. He's firing off on all cylinders, right? Like to me, Guardians 3 is my favorite out of all three Guardians. The Suicide Squad.
You've come all the way around.
Guardians 3?
Because I thought you said that you still thought 1 maybe had it for you, and then 3 was kind of close behind. Have you?
If I did say that, I didn't mean it.
Okay.
Guardians 3 to me was to me I loved every bit of Guardians, and Guardians 3, the Suicide Squad, and Peacemaker are the. He's just doing it right.
He's on
fire right now, and even the Guardians Christmas special, right? Which I was like, why are they doing that? And it was phenomenal.
Bro, it makes me wonder if now knowing with the strike, if Bob Iger just has Nebula playing on repeat fucking actors, just like over and over.
For real.
Also, imagine being Iger right now. He fired James Gunn, and then James Gunn took a job for DC, and it
wasn't him that it was Alan Horn. I thought.
Oh, was it Horn?
I thought it was Horn that fired.
But I just still can't imagine being at Disney and being like that guy that we fired, who then got hired at the studio that literally made another director cut his movie like him. Like all the layers of it. Like David Ayer had to recut his movie to be more like James Gunn. Yeah, I think James Gunn gets fired, joins DC, and then they hire him full time, and now he's running DC.
I thought it was, and again, I could be completely wrong here, but I thought it was Horn that really wanted to get rid of him because of everything, the tweets and all that, and then Batista had his campaign, but then Feige kind of really took it to Iger, and then I
feel like Feige had his back the whole time, right? Like from what I remember, Feige and Gunn, like they protect each other
100%
because they like care. They're friends.
From what I heard, but either way. Okay, so
I like it. Is the answer?
Yeah. So James Gunn though then started to get a lot of those questions, and people tweeting at him, "Hey, what's going on? I thought this was a Superman movie, and everything we just talked about." And then James Gunn also responded. There are a lot of people that are asking how many people were in this already, and again, Josh Wilding, a comic book movie. Since we first learned that David Corenswet will play Superman and Rachel Brosnahan has been tapped to star Lois, the floodgates have opened on Superman Legacy casting news. We got James Gunn talking about Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl, Edie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific, Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, and we'll talk about this in a second, Anthony Carrigan was Metamorpho. These aren't characters we necessarily associate with Superman, and many fans have expressed concerns about the reboot being overcrowded. This is, after all, supposed to be the movie which reintroduces Superman to the world, and he shouldn't have to fight the likes of Green Lantern and Hawkgirl for the spotlight, too. So Gunn has responded, making it clear that these heroes are an important part of the story he's telling with Superman. The filmmaker also assured fans that Superman and Lois will remain the movie's clear protagonists, suggesting these characters are only making extended cameo appearances. On Instagram, the DC Studios co-CEO said, Superman is a man of two worlds, Clark with Lois, Jimmy, and Perry, and Superman with his meta-human compatriots. How could I tell a full story about Clark and Superman without including all areas of his life? It's a valid point, and one that seems many people haven't considered before now. It remains to be seen whether Gunn intends to throw more superheroes into the mix, but the DCU is clearly one that already has its fair share of established do-gooders. Superman Legacy tells the story of Superman's journey to reconcile his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing as Clark Kent of Smallville, Kansas, reads the movie synopsis. He is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way, guided by human kindness in a world that sees kindness as old-fashioned. All right, look, it does seem, again, like we were just talking about with Gunn, he's not just throwing things at the wall. He has a story and he has a take. Now it's just a matter of opinion. If you're like, well, it doesn't matter. There's too many people I want to see. What we're talking about with like the potential Spider-Man 4.
Right.
How you and I want to see a Spider-Man movie. I think you do too. A Spider-Man movie that's less about the MCU and more about almost like what Raimi did with Spider-Man, to do that with Tom Holland. You know, because we've seen it. That would be great. They're not going to do that, but I'd love to see that. And that's kind of what I thought we were getting with Superman. And Gunn's not necessarily saying we're not. He's just saying be aware that Clark has his stuff going on, but Superman's also, we have to establish that this world exists in RDC.
What better way to show how small town someone is than by having a Mr. Terrific, a guy with a power ring, and a woman from a Thanagarian? Like, to me, the one they've announced, and Metamorpho, the people they've announced so far just show a duality. So I think it won't be distracting. He's described this as a workplace comedy, so I really think it's going to be 90%.
Workplace comedy? Is that what he said?
Yeah, I think that one of his quotes was like, he described it as like, that's where it's centered. It's going to be Jimmy, Lois, and the Daily Planet.
Workplace comedy? Is that what he said?
I think so.
I hate that.
Sorry if I broke you. I think that's what I heard.
I hate that.
So, I mean, it's going to be that world, and then the outside world is the loud superhero element. And that I think is going to be smaller.
I don't want, like this one, look, I think James Gunn is hilarious. I think his sense of humor and the jokes that he tells, even in Guardians 2, which I've come around on more so, but I still think there's way too many jokes in it, albeit funny jokes. But I think that I don't want to, I know that he likes to, I know he's funny. I know he likes to throw jokes in there, as opposed to Michael Bay, who should never put a joke in anywhere. But he
just let Martin Lawrence and Will Smith do the jokes,
right? but he's put. Don't start making a whole. Don't make Superman a comedy.
I'll find the quote. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Make Superman a
But
comedy.
yeah, no workplaces.
Because the funny thing is, you mentioned all of his greatest hits right now. So what? The Suicide Squad.
They all call for it though.
Sure. Yes. And I think it might be one of the things that would potentially work if you don't go full like Love and Thunder with it.
Right.
So
I think he knows better.
So if you go from a standpoint of like,
pick a character. Maybe Jimmy Olsen's funny.
Yeah.
It should always be comic relief. It doesn't need to be this serious, brooding movie.
I'm fine with him being at the Daily Planet being funny, but not everybody having to be a comedian.
That's what I'm saying.
So like Lois could be a hard ass, and that by itself makes it funny.
Well, and you catch Rachel Brosnan. Her comedic timing is great.
Yes. What I always bring up, because people always say, you don't like Star Wars humor. That is about as false of a statement ever. I like Star Wars humor that feels like it's relevant to what's going on. And the two examples I use all the time is one old school and one current. The Han Solo moment in Episode 4 when they're storming trying to get the princess out of the thing. And
boring conversation.
Yeah,
anyway.
and he goes, we're fine. How are you? He doesn't know what to do, and he shoots it. It shows who he is. It shows this moment of like just ridiculousness of like, I'm trying to. This isn't working, and he shoots it, and it shows. That's part of the circumstance, and it's a funny moment. Then the other one that is in Mandalorian season 1. When he's sitting there talking to the Jawas, and the Jawas are talking his language, and he starts to try to talk Jawa to him, and like his Jawa, he's terrible. He's like, well, how about this? You understand this? And he tries to light one of them on fire, right? And like, relevant to the scene. Like, so if it's relevant to the scene and it's relevant to who they are, sure. I mean, there's a lot of funny moments there. I mean, we've laughed at like 10, 15 times in this alone. So yeah,
I guess it's funny you mentioning like current moments, and I know people are going to be like, that's the moment you chose. For me, it was Finn trying to negotiate with BB-8, being like, bro, please just lie for me. And BB-8 goes, and he goes, droid, please. And I'm like, okay, that was
that works
for me. But
but whatever it might be, if it's relevant to the moment and they can do it, as long as it's like I said with Guardians too, it's like there were a lot of funny jokes, but it's like, okay, it's just joke machine city here.
Right.
If it turns into workplace comedy with, well, now here's Perry White, and Perry White's doing jokes, and it's like, oh no.
I don't think it would go that way, even with that descriptor. I think it's just him trying to differentiate his movie. So he's saying more of a buzzy,
almost like where the first Spider-Man Homecoming was like a John Hughes.
Right.
movie.
You have to give a statement of title.
The humor has made. I like the choice with Gunn, but the one thing about
and that
everyone
everyone
like
has.
This what's the comedy going to look like in everything?
I think one of the most fascinating things is we had yesterday was the day before where we had 3 giant trailers come out. We have all these castings coming out. It's just I've never seen a year where it was so clearly Comic-Con was set up to be huge. Like you can clearly see all these people coming out on stage. Like I can picture Anthony Kerrigan as Metamorpho. I can picture, and I'm like, oh, what would have been?
Great call, by the way, because you know that was part of the plan when they
100%.
announced Gunn and Safran. Like, yeah, and then we're going to take Comic-Con by storm.
We're gonna get
The
12
hell
people
you
on
are.
that stage, right? Isn't
The
that
hell you are.
insane?
Yeah.
Like this was literally gonna be them announcing an entire Justice
I see
League
George
potentially.
Carlin come out. Bullshit.
Bro, I'm seeing James come in and be like, all right, y'all, I got this whole plan, man.
Yeah.
I actually know who I'm gonna cast. I got everybody ready. They said they
It's
get
in
out
the
to do
script.
this.
Yeah,
It's gonna
exactly.
be wild. James.
There's actually not a Comic-Con
news.
Hall H Warner Brothers panel.
James,
James can just bang his
Also,
head
like
inside.
Warner Brothers, a 3-minute Blue Beetle trailer is clearly made for Comic-Con. That trailer was
that's
overlong too. Like it's
Yeah.
literally they were a Comic-Con cut we got.
Absolutely. What do you? Well, we should
Sholo.
talk about that.
Poor
Real,
Sholo.
we'll let's talk about that in a second.
Guess
But
who can't do press?
I know. You know what's so funny? I was writing him the other day, and I was like, "Oh, okay." I have him come in. I'm like, "Nope."
Right? Isn't that the weirdest?
I did that because I was like, "He's not going to do
He
anything.
can't?
He can't do shit."
Yeah. And his movie comes out in August. There's no way it's done by then.
That sucks.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the time before. What's this guy? Who's
Anthony Kerrigan from
I recognize him from Barry, but what's
yeah.
the character? Metamumu?
Oh,
Metamorpho.
Metamorpho. He can become elements. So
Stag, this guy, what's Stag's first name? Not Walter.
oh yeah, the rich guy.
Yeah.
Victor.
Anyway,
Something
this
rich.
guy Stag, billionaire who actually is so about profits, he's trying to make a formula to help make super soldiers and stuff like that. It goes grossly wrong, and he decides to use it on at least the way that it was told.
So this guy's bad guy?
He misunderstood bad guy that actually is a good guy.
Okay.
Because long story short, at least how it's told in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, the cartoon that came out in the 2000s, it was he was dating the dude's daughter, and he's like, I don't like that
hate
you're
this
dating
guy,
my daughter. So he ended up doing an experiment on him, and he becomes a bad guy because he thinks that that Jon Stewart is getting with his girl.
Right.
So there's that. But it's essentially that Stag.
Stewart, the actor.
Welcome to the Daily Show. I'm sleeping with your wife. But essentially that he gets caught in an experiment gone wrong, and he drifts between anti-hero and hero in the sense because he's misunderstood, because he feels like a freak. It's this whole idea, but he's a good dude.
He's good.
And, yeah.
Okay.
And Kerrigan's perfect to play him.
I mean, just from the description alone,
Yeah. No ho Hank.
sounds perfect. Okay, well then, let's get to Blue Beetle real quick. All right, Blue Beetle trailer comes out. It's as Coy said, it's a longer trailer. As you said that, it made all the sense in the world. That was probably what we were supposed to see for Comic-Con.
Warner Brothers has a panel with Wonka, with Blue Beetle, and then you bring out the Justice
So
League.
they released all those.
That's why they all came out one day.
Wonka and Blue Beetle came out. So I would tell you, as you guys know, and I always put the cards on the table for the audience. Sholo Mediterranean is a friend of the show. I have been rooting for him since the beginning. I think he looks great in it. I think that it could. What I got from this last trailer is this. I think, and this is just kind of me reiterating my points if you guys haven't heard it. I think that if they hit the family dynamic in the same way that maybe like Shazam 1 did, right, then this movie could really work. It doesn't look different. It looks kind of like we've seen it before. And I hated the Grandma Spy Kids ending. I think that I'm like, no bits. Let's establish who this guy is. Let's establish who this kid is. Because he looks fantastic in it. I think the relationship with him and his dad, George Lopez, great hair in this trailer,
Beautiful.
by the way. But yeah, it runs the risk. You can always look like, I've seen it before, but you can make it different.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of movies have had the same kind of formula. So I thought there's some things I was concerned about, and other things I thought looked good. What say you?
I didn't watch it.
You didn't see the trailer? You don't wanna?
I intentionally, I will watch like the first like teaser trailer, or maybe
Right.
even the second,
Because you won't have to talk about it on a show like this, right?
It's not. No, it's not.
I'm going to avoid that thing we do in this.
not.
Capes
I
and
could still.
Cowls.
I
have
could
a-
still be a part of the conversation. I just
Sure.
don't.
So you
They-
like the bit at the end?
Yeah, part of the conversation. He's definitely got.
I should play guy.
His input is guy
You
who
should be
hasn't
guy
seen
gone
it.
there.
Yeah.
You'd be perfect.
True.
But no,
Throw
I
a bowl cut on.
just in the sense, because I know Ahsoka dropped one, and you said Wonka. Like I was just very particularly was just like I don't want every trailer I've seen when they start to get to this phase.
You give away too much.
It gives away
Yeah,
way too
I
much.
don't disagree with you.
And it to the point where the last one that burned me was Quantum Mania.
I would have done the same thing, but I'm
Right,
going to show on Friday.
Right.
that talks
There's
about
that
it.
makes
three
sense.
guys.
Yeah,
I feel
of
like
course,
they're informed about these things. I don't
You
know.
did watch it.
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed.
You're a professional.
I just feel like as a guy that does this kind of commentary,
ahead.
I should
No. Go ahead.
comment
Get it out.
on what
Get it
I've
out.
consumed.
Get it
It's
out.
an idea. I know.
It's a thing. It's a
We're all
thing.
very busy. But the trailer itself, I really like the. I love the physicality that Sholo gets to show. That was the highlight for me.
100%.
He's such a good martial artist, and he's trained so well. And I love that since the suit is practical, it feels like there's actually weight in it because he's in it doing things. And I really like that Blue Beetle looks like he's actually a person in a suit versus a CGI
Yeah,
ones
I
and
agree.
zeros.
Yeah.
So that was a highlight for me. I also really am hopeful that it's got those Guyver vibes that it
It's
seems
the
to.
Guyver vibes, and what I also the other thing I'm glad you said that about like the suit and the way it looked. I thought that if you look at something like we all like the Flash on here, but we all agree that some of the CGI was laughable. They spent $120 million on Blue Beetle, and I thought the CGI looked fantastic.
It looks expensive.
Yeah.
That was one of
I
the
know.
first things I thought was
Yeah.
this movie looks expensive.
Yeah,
So
120.
I did see one trailer, and I will say,
From what
I
you
will
saw.
say, yeah. I mean, in that, like, he
Yeah.
looked like he was rolling around a Bentley. So I can agree with that. See, I'm part of the conversation.
Winston's got some input
Sure,
from
so
two months ago.
So go back in time, go to 2 months, and talk about
Yeah,
that.
let us know
trailer.
how that trailer worked out.
Okay.
But
Look, man, there was
I
a lot
never
of
get
good
to give Winston crap. It feels weird, good, but
I
weird,
know.
bad
Let
at the
it
same
out.
time.
Let
Same
it
time.
out.
Here.
Let it out, baby.
Oh, do I have?
No, I was going to do something to Winston.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so what the you some more mother.
I love the idea that the timing was just off, so that was only swearing. I love
it
the
was
idea that the beeps are just like YouTube's
Didn't
like,
do
what's
anything.
it?
Right.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I am worried a bit about the comedy in points, but I think
Did you like that grandma bit?
I laughed, but then I felt bad about laughing. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you're-
Did you see where you see the Spy Kids? You see what I'm talking about? Spy
Oh, it
Kids?
did.
Yeah.
But what's funny is in the moment I was like, and then I was like, I don't know if I love that joke or if it just
Right.
got me in the moment. And that's what I'm worried about is this looks like it skews younger, which is fine and great, but it shouldn't be at the cost of the adult
Facts.
audience.
Yeah, great. Well, we'll see. I mean, look, I'm obviously rooting for that movie.
Same. Huge.
But it's a major hit. It's a major hit to not be able to promote that movie. Major hit, like because they need to promote that, especially. Sholo is so likable.
Yes.
And he is so good on the mic. He's got his own podcast. He's got all these different things. And he is not going to be able to be out there to promote this
Every
movie.
con-
It's a bad thing.
These are the two, in my opinion, these are the two movies, DC and Marvel, in the Marvels and Blue Beetle, that they needed press more than
Big
anything.
time. Now, Marvel still has a shot. The Marvels still have a shot. Because
If they end this.
yeah,
But
I mean, because look, the Marvels have a much better shot because you're looking at November, right? So you got a much better shot. Blue Beetle's in big trouble.
Blue Beetle should have already started press. They've done some, like Sholo's done that. Did you see his freestyle?
yeah.
Like, and I'm like, okay, that's gonna make the rounds. That was
See,
solid.
I saw that.
But-
Why did you talk about that?
Oh,
It's on the
Sholo's
movie.
freestyle.
It
That's
has
true.
nothing to do with the comic book movie.
That's what I'm moving.
So to me, like every con I do, Sholo's a highlight because he's so personable and he like cares about fans so much.
Right,
Like
it's
he's
true.
the guy that'll be on the front lines talking for an extra hour, and that's what this movie needed. Is exactly the human element of Sholo. So without
Right.
that, I'm just gonna watch that freestyle a lot.
Oof, yeah, it's gonna be a rough one. All right, we still lots of stuff to talk about still. Let's stick with James Gunn though. I know we're still in the DC, so Blue Beetle counts. James Gunn seemingly confirms that the Suicide Squad will not be part of the new DCU canon. James Gunn appears, again, this is Mark Cassidy now over a comic book movie. James Gunn appears to have confirmed that the Suicide Squad will not remain part of the new DCU canon, which will begin with Superman Legacy. But what about Waller and Peacemaker? We know that the DCU, currently being developed by Gunn and Safran, will serve as a relaunch of Warner Brothers' previously DC Comics-based universe. But will it be a full reboot, or will some characters remain on board? Conflicting reports have led to a lot of confusion, especially when we know that Gunn will soon be working on a second season of Peacemaker and a spin-off focusing on Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. Both of those characters originated in the Suicide Squad, so surely Gunn's most recent requel will be canon, right? Responding to a fan on social media who was curious about Nathan Fillion taking on the role of Guy Gardner in Superman Legacy after already playing TDK, with TDK, I guess so, in the Suicide Squad, Gunn seemingly confirmed that the events of this film will not remain canon in the DCU. Gunn says, DC Studios movies and canon start with Superman Legacy. seems pretty cut and dry if it wasn't for those aforementioned the Suicide Squad spin-off shows. Will Cena and whoever reprises the role simply play new versions of their old characters, or does Gunn plan to develop these projects separately from the movies and TV shows? And Gunn also indicated we haven't seen the last of Margot Robbie's take on Harley Quinn, so we're left with a lot of questions. Okay. So this is my thought on it, and I want to get you guys to either counter, agree, disagree. I think that when they, and I think we've discussed this when they were coming in, I think that James Gunn knows that when we had Flash coming out, Aquaman's coming out, Blue Beetle's coming out. These are movies that were before his time, but they needed to try to make some money on it. Because someone asked me recently, a viewer was like, why didn't they just scrap it and do what they did to Batgirl? Batgirl, they took the loss on and tried to get tax breaks on, right? These are movies that the Flash cost $250 million, whatever it must take, and they made, what they make, maybe 200 million, maybe not even that much, but at least they put something in the bank account. There's a loss, but they put something in there. Same thing with these other movies. So they got to say, the door's open. The door's open. Yeah, you never know who can come back, because then people go, oh, maybe I'll see this if it's going to count. And maybe they very well, and that's why they also mention Elseworlds. So I think the Suicide Squad, I think Peacemaker, I think, or I guess they're not doing another Suicide Squad, but Peacemaker, Harley Quinn for Margot Robbie, I think it's all Elseworlds. I don't think it's going to play into any of it. I think it's two separate things. I think Waller, they had this deal going on with Viola Davis. You don't want to say, oh, we're just kidding to Viola Davis. You want to do something with Viola Davis. So you say, well, we'll do like an Elseworlds thing. So I think all that stuff is Elseworld. I think Peacemaker Season 2 ends the entire thing. And I think that he's being accurate and kind of coy, if you will, that we're not going to see.
You're doing too much, Dad. You're doing too much.
That's true. But I'm telling you, we're not going to see. I don't think we're going to see these in DCU, because I think that that's when you get people like me going, "Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Why is Gal Gadot in that? But Cavill's not. Why is he in there?" It's like, push them all to the side, make them Elseworlds, do what you have to do, and if you're going to embrace it, don't make it confusing. But what do you think?
I agree. I think it is interesting because of the timing, like to announce your first slate and include things from an Elseworld from the past. A new Elseworld, you can be like, okay, this is new, this is clean. Like, I think Swamp Thing is going to be tied in, but it could have been an Elseworld. That's one thing. But Waller is so tied to the DCEU by way of Cavill, by way of the Suicide Squad. It seems odd to announce that with your new slate.
Right.
And like Peacemaker is a sequel to something that was already cooking. The Waller one's confusing because to me, it's like you're starting a new journey with a thing that's.
Do they make her Waller but revamped? Like a different, like,
I don't know if you can with the audience after Flash. I feel like Flash showed the lack of interest, and I know a lot of people are like, you know, I support the Snyder stuff, and I love Zack Snyder. I've talked about it, but I don't think people have showed up. So I think if you keep doing stuff that's confusing the audience, it's going to be problematic to your overall bottom line.
You got to disconnect.
Got to disconnect.
Yeah.
And granted, these are 2 TV shows. That might help.
Yeah, because it's the same way that the Penguin is an Elseworlds thing.
Right.
Just
but
make
like
them all Elseworlds.
Waller and Peacemaker being TV helps it not distract from the Superman movie.
Yeah. Well, look, it's the same way that they've always had Elseworlds. They just haven't called it that. Like the Flash TV show, Arrow, all that stuff was all Elseworlds or all different that connected to other stuff. It's the same thing. It's just it's better quality.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that helps them is that they're on TV versus in theater. I do think it's going to be somewhat confusing, though.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I haven't watched Peacemaker Season 2. All you know, I don't know. I don't know if I have an opinion on this. I have no idea. No idea what Grandpa said in this one. You know, so I just kind of.
Have you not seen Peacemaker?
I've seen it. Of course I did.
Kidding.
You don't remember? No, I'm saying
that was well played. That was well played.
Waller.
You couldn't comment. He's making a joke on us making it back. That was actually well played. That was nice enough. Nice enough.
Sit there and take
it. Nice enough. No, touche.
You can believe me all you
want.
No,
that's well played.
No, but I genuinely think it's just that you guys pretty much hit the nail on the head. You had something that worked really well. You've already kind of signed this off with Viola Davis. I'm not saying that it's like okay to like piss off Henry Cavill, but you really don't want to piss off Viola Davis. And so,
but it's also a television show.
Right.
That's the difference. Is that you can have. I mean, for 2 things. One, you have someone of Viola Davis's caliber to really build off of a character to close out, and you're not taking. I mean, this still costs money, and it's still, but it's different when you're taking this shot inside of a streaming series because you're like, okay, we have more content now with an incredible act, one of the best working today. and we don't have to worry about box office numbers hurting the
Exactly, and you also throw in the fact that the difference between Cavill per se and Gal versus Peacemaker, Waller with Viola, the Batman, Joker, Faliadu, those were already in motion. There was nothing in motion to do next with Henry Cavill, so that you're kind of
depends on who you talk to.
Sure, but you know what I'm saying? We're like season 2 was already well underway for its development for Peacemaker. You know what I mean? Faliadu was already given the green light, and they were already like in that like. You may have been at the inklings of doing Man of Steel 2 or whatever else, but you hadn't really gone yet.
But look, also call it what it is. James Gunn had a clear idea that he wanted to do Superman.
Yes.
He does it. I mean, he didn't say it in this way. He's buddies with Zack Snyder, but I think he's like, okay, Zack did this kind of darker version. I want to go more traditional, and I think Henry's too tied to this, so I'm going to do this. And they're like, well, and people like myself again, what about why is Gal and everything? Because we can still use them and stuff right now. We can still put them in. They're still coming out for Flash. They're still into the Flash stuff. They're in those things, and we don't know what we're doing with all this Elseworld stuff yet. But I know that I'm starting with this. I get the philosophy behind it. I really do. But I'm just saying, as Coy and I just mentioned, shut it down.
Yeah.
Shut it down.
The better. Excuse my
No.
fault. I was gonna say the better move. You're right. Just cut it all off.
Yeah.
Just cut it all off and just be done with
But
it.
let
so
these
that you don't-
Elseworlds things play.
Yeah.
They're already announced. Like
Right.
I also think Elseworlds is a strength of DC. It's just I wouldn't do an Elseworld tied to an old continuity. That's what I'm saying is like Peacemaker. I know there's the scene with all of them in the shows,
Right.
but I don't associate it with the DCEU. When I think of it, I think of the team we met and we followed, and that's fine.
Right.
I get that we saw her in Shazam, whatever, but I don't associate it. So do a season 2. It's on TV. I won't feel connected to it. Starting a new thing with Waller is the only one that I still want to watch it. I think Viola Davis plays a great Waller. It's just doing 2 of them down the line. I think that's when you got to end it though, but it's weird to
Should be a
announce
limited
one.
series.
And I think Elseworlds overall, like I think
probably will be.
I think the Batman should do a 3rd. I think the Penguin show is going to be a great asset. I think do more Elseworlds. I don't think you shouldn't do Elseworlds. I just think you shouldn't do Elseworlds tied to a thing that's
something
cost you.
you're
Yeah.
trying to put
Agreed.
it into. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna switch over. I want to get to. I gotta get to Marvel, and this will be our last show. I mean, hold on.
That's it,
Last
guys.
show, we're
It's
done.
over.
We're done.
Is this how we find out?
That's it. I want to switch over to Marvel. There's one more story. All right, I have not shut up about The Bear. It is the best show on television. It really is. And one of the main reasons for that is the gentleman I'm about to talk about in just a moment. On comicbookmovie.com, there's a rumor Andor and the Punisher star Eben Moss-Barack may be in line to play the Thing in Fantastic Four. For months now, this is Josh Wilding, we've been met with seamlessly endless Fantastic Four casting rumors. It wasn't that long ago that so-called scoopers started claiming that the entire ensemble had been set by Marvel Studios, though it wasn't long before reports were refuted. In case you've forgotten, we've heard the plan was Adam Driver to play Reed Richards, Margot Robbie as Sue Storm, Paul Mescal to flame on as Johnny Storm, and Daveed Diggs to transform into the ever-loving blue-eyed Ben Grimm, the Thing. And don't forget, Antonio Banderas apparently is Galactus. Well, now, coming from DCEU links, I guess on Reddit, is reporting that Eben Moss-Barack is set to play the Thing in Fantastic Four. The actor is of Jewish descent and recently played Arvel Skeen in Andor. His past credits include The Punisher and Girls, and while also receiving a nomination for a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series, I don't know about a comedy series, for his work in The Bear. Skeen is no means a household name. The Thing could be a role that he really makes his own. An actor who plays Ben Grimm, we call him Skeen. Skeen's his character's name. An actor who plays Ben Grimm will be required to bring the hero to life with motion capture, making a physically demanding part which is going to live or die in their performance. Again, grain of salt from the rumor, but I see this. I think this is brilliant casting. I think this is brilliant casting, and yes, it has a lot to do with the fact that I'm so just kind of in the weeds, if you will, when it comes to
Right behind?
to the Bear. But I think this is great. This guy he is probably the star of season 2. I mean, really think he is.
I think even going back to Punisher season 2, he still seems like
I've
Micro,
never
man.
I've never seen
he
Punisher
plays
1 or
Micro.
2. I've never seen.
You've never
Punisher
seen 1 or
2?
2?
Not. I only saw Punisher in
In Daredevil.
in Daredevil. I didn't realize there was a season 2.
Dude, season 1 of Punisher is one of the best, and season 2 is okay.
But
But
it
Micro,
literally is on my list. It says watch Punisher.
that's so Micro. He's Micro in that, and he's incredible.
Okay.
I'm assuming that might be how John Bernthal became part of the
probably
Bear.
seems
Because
like it makes a lot more sense.
But he's got the eyes. I know it's weird, but like what you want to see the depth of the eyes underneath the CGI and the mocap.
Yeah.
Like there's so much emotion in that guy's eyes. He's got the aggressive warmth, like where you want to like love this guy. I could see him in the humanoid form being like a bit of a grunt that just knows Reed through like working like the pilot angle. It's perfect. I think this is amazing.
It goes also back to the fact of the things we've been talking about, lower budgets, right? You get a guy like this that is an incredible actor, and his price point ain't going to be too big right now.
But the name recognition, like I always talk about, he's right between. You'd recognize him.
He's more face recognizable than name recognizable.
That's what I'm saying. Like you go like, oh, that guy, but it's not yet household.
And now that they're grabbing, because he's getting nominated for Emmys, and the Bear's you're starting to hear the Bear more in conversation now. So he's going to be recognized, and especially in roles like this. But Winston, what do you think? Because you're not watching the Bear, but you saw Andor.
Yes.
You saw him in Andor, so you're somewhat familiar with him.
I am. I mean, I recognize the actor from The Punisher. I recognize him from he's literally, there was a great ad campaign of like, I'm an actor, and you can't. You're trying to put my name to my face right now, but you can't do it.
He did that.
He was in one of those, but that's how he's literally
that's so funny.
What Pam? Not Pam Grier. Pam Archer.
Anderson.
No. Archer and Arrested Development. Also Ant-Man, the wife of
Pam Grier.
Is
right?
it Pam Grier?
Yeah, wife of who?
And Ant-Man.
She plays the planet of Scott Lang. Ex-wife.
Is it her name Pam Grier?
Is it Pam Grier?
No, Judy Greer.
Judy Greer.
Oh,
Pam Grier is the black woman.
Yeah.
No.
Pam
That's
Grier is
all.
Jackie Brown.
Pam Grier. Yes, thank you.
But it was a Greer. That's what threw me.
It was Judy Greer.
Judy Greer.
She was
Roca knows that. Well, Roca lost the title to Riley because of Judy Greer.
Oh, really? Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I say all that to say that I have seen him in enough stuff and I'm sure he's phenomenal in The Bear, and I can't wait because it's also on my list of shows to watch right now. He is a phenomenal actor. That is the thing. There are people that like they'll give it to you like full physicality, all that kind of stuff, and he has that. But it is specifically what you mentioned before. It's everything he can do just with his eyes and with his face. You can see everything in it, and that is going to have to play for the thing. So like they said, because of mocap. I think of Gollum and everything that Andy Serkis did with that. You need to have that kind of ability to pull that off.
Brolin's Thanos. Like I think of the eyes of Thanos are why that character works.
Serkis and Toby Kebbell both in the Apes movies as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, everything that you just said, if you feel that way about him without seeing The Bear season 2.
Oh wow.
Dude, like,
the Bear season 2 might be one of the best seasons of television of all time.
I'm not kidding. And I think like I love season 1. Like I love season 1. I think season 2 is way better.
Season 1 cemented it as like one of the best new shows.
You should be watching it.
Yeah. But season 2 cemented it as like one of the best shows.
You talk about writers. You talk about writers. I mean, holy moly! Like the way that they structure that show in general, and what they do from 1 to 10, and then just kind of the journey it takes you on. But
you've worked in restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Did it give you a lot of like PTSD, like me? I had a lot of trauma come back up.
Yeah, but I worked at I was might have been the worst server in the history of the world. It would be slow. Like I never forget this. It would be slow. And I worked at California Pizza Kitchen in Santa Monica when it first opened, and it was like opening up. And I had this one second. I'll never forget this. And I had like 4 tables, but nobody had come in yet. My section was like 4 or 5 tables. So this table comes in, and sometimes if you're too busy, you give them to other servers.
Yeah.
Right? So this table comes in, and they sit down. It's like a 2 or maybe 3 top, and I look at one of the servers. I go, "You want that?" And they go, "That's your only table." I go, "Just take it."
I was the legit opposite.
I'll take the minimum
I was
wage.
like, let me drown.
God.
So I started serving in Massachusetts. The minimum wage, it doesn't count for servers. So I made $2.36 an hour.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'd lose money to taxes. So I'd have to make all my money, and then it's all servers. Oh, that's crazy. So I'd try to get like 10 tables. I'd take other people's sections. I'd stay extra time.
So you're not surviving the strike then?
Not for waiters.
Yeah, I'm saying the idea of if we got to go back, you're like, nope,
I'm not going to.
I wouldn't go too because I was really like the one thing that I did, and I'm okay to tell the story. I probably told it beforehand too. I didn't ever abide by the customer's always right because when I remember being at a table one time, and actually they made this guy and it was a group of like really snobby rich people, and they made this girl that I worked with, cry because he was just really rude and just like, we're paying all this money and notoriously bad tipper and everything too. So I was like, I'll help take the table. She just didn't want to do it. So I was there and I took the table and I was being a
Piece of work.
Yeah, and I had just had a lot of spinach dip. I
All riled up on spinach dip.
I ripped it as I was taking the order and just left him, let him sit on it, blame it on his mother-in-law. I just left him. Fuck him. Fuck him.
We serve very differently. I respect that.
Yeah.
We were other ends of the spectrum because that show gave me a lot of trauma.
You're gonna make someone cry.
Yeah, that's
You're gonna
it.
make someone cry. You're gonna be a dick because you make money. Fuck off. Here's some spinach dip farts, and you got it. You blame it on your mother-in-law. 80-year-old woman probably thought she did it anyway.
And they didn't talk to grandma again. She didn't come back out to dinner. And that family was never the same.
You bring your mother. I spent all this money. She's farting in my fucking face. I'm trying to get the guy to give me more wine. He won't do it. You got spinach farts. You didn't even eat spinach.
Kristian breaking up families.
That's right. Anyway.
He's going to be great. If this is true, I know it's grain of salt, but this is incredible casting. Yeah. It's also very on-brand Marvel casting where it's like, man, I never thought it, and now it's perfect.
Agreed. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. Spinach farts all day. So make sure you comment, click like, do all that stuff. Please, I don't know if you know this. What I started doing, as you guys know, I have the live stream channel. I'm putting all the Big Thing clips on that channel. We've already started putting a lot of clips, so you're going to see some of the clips there. You might see it here. You might see this particular clip over there. And they're doing well. So make sure you go over there, check it out. And for Winston and Coy, where can I find you?
I'm actually going to Comic-Con, unlike a lot of studios. But if you're down there, I have a Hall H panel. I'm hosting Hall H at 12:15 Saturday, 1 o'clock Real Rejects panel, 2 o'clock. Got a panel over across the way. I got a lot of panels. So come on down to San Diego Comic-Con. I would love to see and meet you guys in 3D. Also YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram.
I will not be going to Comic-Con because I'm going to be having Ow. I swear to God. You know, see, this is how you know I'm your friend, because you know what I could have done? I'd be like, oh, so you're going to shut the black guy up, huh? That's what you...
I've been waiting for that for 20 minutes. I've been waiting for that statement for 20 minutes, because if I had the power, it would have came out right away. You would have said it first.
It's all good. I didn't even dawn on me. No, but please come over to my YouTube channel, come to my TikTok at the Swaggy Blurred, man. I've been doing these CPT reviews, man. I've been going back and watching these movies. He took too long with Braveheart and Rocky, so I'm doing those too. So you got to come over and see what my thoughts are on these movies that everybody has loved more than anything. And then I've been doing the Breakfast AM News, man.
Do you know who has a cameo in Braveheart though?
No.
Tim the Dinosaur.
Dad, you're doing too much.
You're doing too much, Dad. You're doing too much.
Yeah, too much.
Also, someone in the comments said that me and Kristian know what CPT was, and I even said that was a great title, and I felt disrespected. We get how good a title that is. We respect that title. It's clever.
You just can't say what it means.
I can only acknowledge that it's clever. Let them figure it out.
Listen to me. Go ahead and comment, click like, get Rocket Money. I'm not.
No, seriously.
That's your challenge.
Check it out.
You have to get it.
Now and next Thursday.
Rocketmoney.com/thing. And make sure, I'm telling you guys, if you want to help the show, you want to help yourself, you will thank me on that one. I know that I've been aggressive on this one, but I'm for a reason. All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us. I appreciate it. For Winston and Coy, Capes and Cowls, see you. Peace.